In Buddhism, when Zen practitioners share their understanding of the teachings in practice, it is offered freely as a practice of Paramita. Dana is a Pali that means generosity or to give freely, and this practice is done without the expectation of getting something in return. This is the spirit of speaking about the Dharma. Other ways to practice Dana is to offer support to those who share the teachings, to support places of spiritual practice without judgment or expectation when opportunities arise. Those who share the teachings at Great Tree do so on a Dana basis. Please support their practice by giving what you can. Today comes from Anattasati Magga, and on their website there's a donation link. So please send your Dana to Anattasati Magga. And our speaker today, we are welcoming back Starr Nolan, who has been loving, studying, and trying to live the Dharma since she met Sujata Yasa at Anattasati Magga Sangha, Fort Sangha. Her special areas of focus and study include the Heart Sutra and the Lojong Slogans, especially Norman Fisher's Training in Compassion, and Zen Teachings on the Practice of Lojong. Starr is a clinical social worker in private practice in Asheville and has been supporting people in healing from for over 30 years. She is executive director for Casting Carolinas, a nonprofit that provides free retreats for women living life after cancer. Starr greatly enjoys playing music with her band All Strings ReConsidered and has fly fished in many beautiful places all over the world. And the title of her talk today is Word of the Buddha 7, the 5 Perfections and the 5 Blesseds. Welcome, Starr. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks to all of you for the opportunity to share our Word of the Buddha classes. So I was just going to give you a little bit of a background about the Word of the Buddha classes and what they are. These are our daily recitation, and so our mala is a little bit different than a traditional mala. The traditional mala has probably 108 beads. This one has 58 beads, and when we recite our daily recitation, then we use the mala and go around the mala to remind us of these teachings. So that's what Word of the Buddha classes are about. And so there are 58 large beads and 11 small marker beads. And with each one of these marker beads, the small ones, we say, "In this way, I do most deeply vow to train the self." So Word of the Buddha is divided into 8 classes, and this is the 7th class. So that means that we've gotten almost all the way around the mala. And then at the very, with this mala, there's no tassel, there's a key, and this is the Anattasati Magga key. So this Word of the Buddha is teachings and commentary from Sujata. So when we start lay minister training, when we begin, one of the requirements to complete lay minister training and ordination is that we teach all of the Word of the Buddha classes. And we teach them many more times than once. So again, gratitude to Sujata Yasa for creating this Word of the Buddha teaching. So today we are to the 45th bead, and that's the beginning of the paramitas. So what I'm going to do is first I'll read Sujata Yasa's commentary. And then I will add Norman Fisher's commentary on the perfections, the paramitas, as well. So, and I'll be adding his commentary from The World Could Be Otherwise, imagination, and the Bodhisattva path, which I probably read almost every day. So first I'll just tell you what these beads are, what we recite. So when we get to the 45th bead, we say, after we've said, I do most deeply vow to train the self, we say, in the practice of loving kindness, in the practice of pure attention, in the practice of ever expanding faith, in the practice of constant devotion, in the practice of inquiry through correct dhyana. Okay. So it's interesting when I was looking at Sujata's commentary, even though it says that there are five paramitas that we're reciting here, she actually acknowledges that there are 6, and it seems that most people who write about this would say, well, there are at least 6 paramitas, and you sometimes find that people say there are 10 paramitas, and that the Buddha spent lifetimes practicing the 10 perfections. So the perfections arise from an elaboration of the 6th step on the Eightfold Path. So again, that's certainly part of what we recite. That's one of the sections of the Word of the Buddha, is to recite the Eightfold Path. So the 6th step on the Eightfold Path is endeavor that results in goodness. And in particular, these perfections arise from the 4th effort we're directed to make in this 6th step of the Eightfold Path. So the 4th effort we're directed to make in right effort is that of developing within ourselves only what is good and wholesome. So as I've said, and this is what the commentary refers to, some Dharma books, teachings refer to 10 paramitas, some offer 6, but what are paramitas? So paramitas are the transcendent wisdom, or prajna, or transcendent knowledge, and this is the view of the heart of bodhisattvas, as well as the heart of all the Buddhas in the past, present, and future. The heart of wisdom, or wisdom heart, which means that transcendent wisdom is like the heart, the beating heart of all the Buddhas, all enlightened ones in every time. So here we're reminded of the Heart Sutra and the mantra in the Heart Sutra, which is gate gate para gate para sam gate bodhi sabaha, meaning this is transcendent wisdom. This is crossing over to the other shore. And this is what Sujata says: there's no higher realization or wisdom that we can actualize. It is the peak, the ultimate attainment that we can have on the path. Therefore, Buddha called it transcendent wisdom because it transcends duality. It transcends samsara. It transcends the duality of everything. So then the other 5 paramitas, which is interesting because that would be the 6th one, transcendent wisdom. The other 5 paramitas that we recite are generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and meditation. So these are actually foundations that support the training of transcendent wisdom. I never have quite remembered to ask Sujata why we recite only 5 when we refer to 6, but it is an interesting question. So when we say them, we're reminded that they're practices. They're not qualities that we're expected to already manifest. And as you practice them, loving kindness, pure attention, ever-expanding faith, constant devotion and inquiry, you are leading an enlightened life. So that's Sujata's commentary on these 5 perfections or 6 perfections. And I'd like to then share with you Norman Fisher's commentary on the 5 perfections. Are you all familiar with, do you all know, familiar with Norman Fisher? Do you know him? Okay. He is a Zen priest, and he has for many years been at the San Francisco, I think, Zen Center. He's also a poet, and his writing, the way he's able to state things, to me is very, very impactful. So here's what Norman Fisher has to say about the perfections. And again, this is from The World Could Be Otherwise, Imagination and the Bodhisattva Path, which I think is a very inspirational book for all bodhisattvas. So here's what Norman Fisher has to say. We all have the same human problem: how to take good practical care of our lives and at the same time expand them. So he says, in this book, I propose the Bodhisattva vision, your own version of it, as a way to do this. We all want to extend ourselves to be of service, to have some bounce in our living. The Bodhisattva path can offer inspiration. The Bodhisattva path is defined by 6 practices, the 6 paramitas. The translation of paramita that comes from the root words param, which means the other side, and ita, which means gone. So paramita means gone to the other side, and by extension, it means perfection. Perfect goes all the way out to the end of possible and beyond. It crosses over to the other side, beyond the possible. So we know when we take the Bodhisattva vow, or when we recite the Bodhisattva vow, how completely impossible it seems. To come back until all beings, are enlightened. So, his book says that the way that we do this is through the use of imagination, and he's very careful to define that. It's not fantasy, it's the use of imagination. So he goes on to say, nobody's perfect. Like most common sayings, this too is true. No human being can be perfect, but this doesn't stop us from trying. The 6 perfections are impossible. No one can practice them, but we practice them anyway. We make the impossible possible. The only way to do what cannot be done is imaginatively. I can't practice the paramitas objectively, but I can practice them imaginatively through vow, intention, spirit, commitment, and action. I can practice them through love, through expansion of my heart. That's the spirit of practicing the 6 perfections. So I love that. Through love, through expansion of my heart. In an early sutra, the Buddhist path was compared to a raft. Starting from the shore of suffering, you float the raft to the shore of nirvana. You go beyond pain to peace. In using the word paramita, going beyond, to describe the Bodhisattva path, the Mahayanists wanted to echo that sense of the early metaphor. Each of the 6 perfections is a raft carrying us from this shore to the other shore. But also, each perfection is already beyond. To practice it wherever we are is already to be beyond. We never leave this shore for another because we are already there, already beyond, immediately, simply in doing the practice. The very imperfection is the perfection. The path itself is the goal. The paradox lies at the heart of the practice of the 6 perfections. The 6 perfections are expansive, endlessly imaginative practices, yet they are at the same time down to earth. They are pathways for the development of character, ways we can improve as human beings functioning in the world as it is. Taken as a whole, they define a spirit and a way of life. The 6 perfections are generosity, ethical conduct, patience, joyful effort, meditation, and understanding. One of the things you find about Norman Fisher, and he sort of made this kind of a goal of his practice and his teaching, is that he frequently relanguages things. So if you read his book on Lojong, he has, in many cases, reworded the Lojong slogans, for example, to make them possibly more accessible. So the perfection of generosity is opening our hearts to ourselves. Very important to remember that when we're practicing, we can't forget practicing, directing our practice towards self. So opening our hearts to ourselves, to others, and to the abundance of life. So generosity is often offered as the first paramita practice. The perfection of ethical conduct, paying attention to our thoughts, words, and deeds, turning them away from self-centeredness and toward love and the benefit of others. The perfection of patience, fully facing difficulties and transforming them into the path. And if you read Norman's book, he has a chapter on each of these, and he states that the perfection of patience may be the most important paramita, because if we are not able to practice patience, we may not be successful with the practice of any of the other paramitas. So the perfection of joyful effort, which is really helpful at this point, I think. Rousing ourselves to hopefulness and joy so we can keep our practice commitments with a bright spirit. The perfection of meditation. Focused, regular sitting and walking practice to refresh and slow down our heart and minds so that our days and nights can be firm and calm. And the perfection of understanding. Recognizing that nothing is as we think it is, that there is no separation, no tragedy, that nothing is fixed or solid, that there is only love and endless hopefulness beyond and within what happens and doesn't happen. The perfection of understanding pervades the other 5 perfections. It is the great gift of Mahayana Buddhist thought, the source and the fruit of imagination. These 6 practices define the path of the Bodhisattva, the imaginative hero of the Mahayana Buddhist path. To contemplate and practice them is a lifetime's project, one we will never complete. The more we practice them in this crazy world, the more we will see how our ordinary human life, with all its pressures and difficulties, can also be heroic and passionate, can be a heroic and passionate spiritual journey. So that's Norman Fisher's commentary on the Paramitas. So does anybody have any questions, thoughts before we move on to the what's called the Happy Blesseds? Anybody?
I have a thought about why only 5 of the paramitas are in the beads. And I think that in Norm Fisher's thing, and also Come Children talks about this, that wisdom, or you translate it as understanding, the 6th one, pervade the other ones. And what I was thinking is that what, and also what he was saying about just to act in these ways, just to act on, you know, generosity or dana and joyful effort and things, just to do it is to do the bodhisattva practice. So it seems to me like the wisdom or the awakening or the 6th paramita is when we remember, you know, when we remember, oh yes, I want to do this, you know, when that part of us kind of wakes up, and that causes us to do a certain action. You know what I mean? Of course, the opportunity signals the action, but for us to read in a certain way requires a certain open-heartedness, you know, or a certain, what I see as prajna or wisdom is something that it's like bodhicitta, it's that awakened mind that kind of comes, you know, we kind of forget about it sometimes, you know. So very awakening, and it happens in zazen, to notice how busy our mind is, that we're angry, just to notice it, that is awakening, you know. So maybe the activities, and then the understanding that the wisdom is the underlying igniter.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. That's probably what Sujata would say. Yeah. Yeah. That totally makes sense. Thank you. Yeah. Right. And the practice of inquiry through correct dhyana being the 49th bead. Right. And that really just means, you know, Zen, Zazen, the practice of Zazen, which is, right, going to take you to transcendent wisdom. Right. Yeah, Norman Fisher is very good about talking about the ideal and the actual in this book too. It's like, what's the actual practice of generosity versus going beyond, right? But as you said, the actual practices are part of the practice. Just to offer something to someone, just to offer your attention to someone is generosity. You're already there.
I have a question as well. One thing I always have a difficult time with is just like remembering, there's so many lists of things, of numbers of things, and it seemed like the six ones that you had talked about have a lot of parallels to the Eightfold Path, and ways you should behave and direct yourself in your speech and your compassion work. And I was wondering why. I guess what the six perfections are trying to emphasize that are not already laid out in that.
I think they're just trying to do what, just to add to the practice. The Lojong Slogans, for example, that's the same thing, right? When we're studying and practicing those, we're hearing the same language, the same practices. For me, it's like, I can't repeat this enough, right? It's like, yeah. So, right, every day. I mean, we continue to do the word of the Buddha, and we've done it for years. We offer the same teaching ever since I've been 12 years. We offer the same teaching over and over and over again. And what we hear frequently is that even though it's the same words, it opens different doors every time we speak it. That's my thought on it. Does anybody else have a thought about it?
I also think maybe different people relate to it in different ways. I relate more to the six paramitas than to the Eightfold Path, for example. I don't know why.
Yeah, is the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is part of. Did it develop or evolve in Hinayana practice? It seems
Well,
like.
it's the four keys, right?
Yeah, it seems like it was an early teaching, and then with the Prajnaparamita Sutras and the second turning of the wheel, everything shifted, and that's when these paramitas, kind of arose as part of the teaching. So, and the Bodhisattva took a different place on the stage, sort of a central part of Buddhist teaching, with the rising Prajnaparamita Sutras and second turning of the wheel. So, yeah, I resonate also more to the paramitas than to the Eightfold Path teachings. So thanks, y'all, for adding to. I love that. I love to hear people's thoughts and questions, and I learn as much when I teach as or when I offer teaching as I do, any other time. So I really appreciate this. So then we have a marker bead after the 49th bead, and it says again, in this way, I do most deeply vow to train the self. And then we recite the happy blesseds, and there really are just 5 of these. So the happy blesseds are, Oh, happy blessed day. Oh, happy blessed place. Oh, happy blessed time. Oh, happy blessed path. Oh, happy blessed opportunity. It's funny, when I always say, when I first encountered this teaching, and when we first teach it, we're not allowed to add anything. Um, we just read through what's already here as a commentary. And I thought, oh, good, there's something happy going on in Zen Buddhism. We get to have happy, blessed days. And that's not what this means. And but at least for a short time, I thought, wow, that's a little lighter than some of the other teachings. So here's the commentary on the happy blesseds. The source of these is the Bhattacharya Sutra. And the translation is an auspicious day. So happy blesseds are about creating an auspicious day. So what, in good Buddhist form, we have to define auspicious. It means promising success, or favorable. So an auspicious day is one that promising success, a favorable day. And the point of this sutra would be that instead of the play of cosmic forces, the stars, or the lucky omens, one's own development of the mind's attitude to time is what makes a day auspicious. One's own development of the mind's attitude to time is what makes a day auspicious. So then in the commentary, we go into a quote from the beginning of the sutra. And as I was studying this, I discovered Thich Nhat Hanh's translation of this sutra. And again, I always appreciate that he relanguages some things, and they resonate for me. So he retitled this sutra, Discourse on Knowing the Better Way to Live Alone. So here's what Thich Nhat Hanh, his translation. It starts just like all of these sutras start. Is it, I heard the words of the Buddha one time, but the way he says it is, I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying at the monastery in the Jeta Grove. So he calls the monks together as usual. This again is just very common as an intro to sutras, even though some of them, like the Heart Sutra, were written many centuries after the Buddha's death. So it's like, okay, well, so the Buddha actually was not present at that time. So there's also all sorts of interesting information about why sutras are introduced in this way, but it certainly does, it gives them some credence anyway. So the Buddha says, hello, monks, and the monks go, yes. And he says, I'm going to teach you what is meant by knowing the better way to live alone. And so here's what the Buddha says. Do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. The past no longer is. The future has not yet come. Looking deeply at life as it is in the very here and now, the practitioner dwells in stability and freedom. We must be diligent today. To wait till tomorrow is too late. Death comes unexpectedly. How can we bargain with it? The sage calls a person who dwells in mindfulness night and day the one who knows the better way to live alone. So again, that's Thich Nhat Hanh's translation of this. So our recitation names the 5 components that keep us grounded in the present moment: the day, the location or place, the minute of time, the mindfulness practice of the path, and whatever opportunities arise moment to moment. So again, oh happy blessed day, oh happy blessed place, oh happy blessed time, oh happy blessed path, oh happy blessed opportunity. Here is a way you could use this recitation. Again, we're back to Sujata's commentary. If you can't see this day, this place, this time, this path, and this opportunity that life has just offered as blessed, then you know you are identified. You're being led around by the nose by some aspect of yourself, some sub-personality, some posture, some habit that has dulled you and limited your presence in the moment. So that's the happy blesseds. So we have a time if anyone wants to have a, anybody has questions, thoughts on these. Just
Could you
remind.
repeat yourself? Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last you said one Sujata commentary at this. Could you just repeat that?
Yes, the last paragraph I read to you. Yeah, sure. Here's a way you could use this recitation. If you can't see this day, this place, this time, this and this opportunity that life has just offered as blessed, then you know you are identified. You are being led around by the nose by some aspect of self, some sub-personality. And this is how Sujata likes to think about self. She likes to think about the self as, sub-personalities. Some posture, some habit, and I would say some pattern, because that's how I think about things as in the work that I do. Some habit that has dulled you and limited your presence in the moment. So this is how you could use them.
I'm interested by the use of the word identified.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe give any thoughts on like the context of that word?
Mm-hmm. Identified with some aspect of self, right? I think of it as hooked. That's my word for it. That's what Pema Chodron uses as well. It's like, you've essentially anything that takes you out of the present moment, anything that has you swirling off into some story, anything that has taken you away from present moment and the ability to see clearly, skillful action. The body lets you know when you're there, whether you're in this state of sort of peace and calm that Norman Fisher was talking about, or you're in a place of I think Joan Halifax calls it upregulated, when your system is, your body's letting you know that you are processing things from a place of maybe fight or flight or freeze, you know. Your vagus nerve is, you know, crashing or whatever. It's like when you check in with the self, you realize, and your body will definitely let you know if you're hooked, if you're off into some story.
That makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody else have a thought or question? Okay, then. Well, that is the conclusion of the Word of the Buddha 7. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Mm.